The stars looked calm and endless outside the cockpit window, but inside the small ship everything was chaos. Ethan Cole, a space explorer from Earth, fought with the controls as alarms screamed in his ears. The ship had been hit by a burst of cosmic energy, something no one had ever seen before. Red lights flashed and smoke filled the cabin. Come on, hold together," Ethan shouted, pressing buttons and trying to keep the ship stable, but it was no use. The engines were gone. The ship began spinning fast, heading straight toward the strange green planet below. The surface looked peaceful from space, glowing faintly with rivers of light. But as Ethan's ship tore through the atmosphere, peace turned to terror. The heat shields burned, metal screamed, and everything shook violently. Ethan's body slammed against his seat. He could barely breathe. "If I survive this," he whispered, "I'm never leaving Earth again." Moments later, the ship hit the ground. There was a massive crash, followed by silence. Ethan's vision blurred. Sparks danced in the air and smoke filled the broken cockpit. He coughed hard, trying to unbuckle his seatbelt. His body hurt everywhere, but he was alive. The ship was half buried in the soft green soil, surrounded by tall, glowing plants that moved slowly, almost like they were breathing. He pushed open the hatch and stepped outside. The air felt heavy and wet, but it was breathable. Strange sounds echoed through the forest, soft hums, clicks, and something that sounded like whispering wind. The sky wasn't blue but a light green, filled with floating clouds that looked like jellyfish. The ground pulsed faintly with light beneath his boots. Ethan looked around in awe and fear. "Where the hell am I?" he muttered. He checked his wrist communicator. No signal. His oxygen tank showed only 15%. He had to find shelter or food soon. He walked slowly away from the ship, scanning the area. Everything seemed alive, the plants, the air, even the ground. Every few steps he felt a small vibration underfoot, like the planet itself was breathing. Then, suddenly, he froze. He saw movement behind the glowing trees. Something tall and thin was standing there, half hidden by the light. It wasn't a beast. It wasn't a robot. It was a woman, at least she looked like one. Her body shimmered in the green light, smooth and almost transparent, like her skin was made of water. Her hair floated around her as if she was underwater. Her eyes glowed faint blue, calm but deep. Ethan took a careful step forward. "Hello, can you understand me?" he called out. The figure didn't move at first. Then slowly, she stepped out of the shadows. Ethan gasped. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. Her face was soft and perfect, and her body was shaped like a human woman, but too perfect, like something from a dream. Her movements were smooth and slow, almost hypnotic. The alien woman tilted her head, watching him curiously. Then she spoke in a soft voice, strange but clear. "You are not from here." Ethan's mouth went dry. "You can speak English?" "Not all words," she said slowly, touching her chest. Lyra, he repeated. "Is that your name?" She nodded gently, smiling faintly. Her smile made his heart skip. Ethan lowered his blaster. She didn't look dangerous, at least not yet. "I'm Ethan," he said carefully. "I crashed here." "I need help." Lyra stepped closer. The air around her seemed to shimmer as she moved. When she got close enough, Ethan could smell something sweet, like fruit mixed with electricity. It made his head spin a little. "You hurt?" she asked. "Just a few bruises," Ethan said, still staring at her. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter as she studied him. "You strong, warm." Ethan blinked. Thanks, I guess." She smiled wider this time, and her teeth were white and perfect, but maybe a little too sharp. Lyra reached out her hand, and for a moment Ethan hesitated. Then he slowly reached out and took it. Her skin was smooth and warm, but it pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. The touch sent a strange feeling through his arm. A small vibration, pleasant but strange. She looked into his eyes. "Come," she said softly. "Safe place." Ethan followed her through the glowing forest. The plants seemed to move aside as she passed. The air grew warmer, and the ground sparkled with tiny lights. They reached a cave entrance covered with crystal vines that shimmered like glass. Inside, soft light glowed from the walls. It was beautiful, peaceful, almost magical. Ethan looked around in awe. "This is incredible." Lyra smiled again. "Home," she said. He nodded. "Thank you, Lyra." She tilted her head slightly. "Ethan." She repeated his name slowly, like she was tasting the sound. Then she smiled again, the kind of smile that made his chest tighten. But as she turned away, her expression changed for a split second. Her eyes narrowed and a small shimmer moved under her skin, like something alive crawling beneath it. Ethan didn't notice. He was too busy catching his breath and staring at the strange beauty around him. Outside the cave, the green forest pulsed softly in rhythm, almost like it was breathing with them. Deep in the darkness, something whispered Ethan's name again, but this time, it wasn't Lyra. Ethan sat near the glowing wall of the cave, still trying to catch his breath. His heart pounded fast and his mind spun with questions. Who was this woman? What was this planet? And how could she speak his language even a little? Lyra moved quietly inside the cave, her bare feet making no sound on the crystal floor. The way she walked was smooth and graceful, almost floating. The light from the walls made her skin shine like soft glass. She looked back at him. "You cold?" she asked softly. Ethan shook his head. "No, I'm fine. Just tired. My ship, it's broken. I don't know how to fix it here." Lyra tilted her head, trying to understand his words. "Ship?" she repeated. He pointed outside. "My home, my machine. It crashed." Lyra nodded slowly. "Big fire," she said. "Sky burned." I saw. Ethan smiled faintly. "Yeah, that was me. Lucky I didn't die." Lyra's face softened. "Not lucky," she whispered. "You strong." Her voice was gentle but heavy, like music that made his heart slow down. For a moment he forgot about the pain in his leg, the smoke and the crash. He only saw her, standing there in the soft light, eyes glowing like small moons. "Thank you for helping me," he said. Lyra smiled and moved closer. She sat beside him, her movements slow, careful. "Ethan," she said, saying his name again. "You hurt inside?" Ethan frowned. "Inside?" She placed her hand lightly on his chest. Here, her touch was warm, too warm. It felt like a soft vibration spreading through his skin. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't painful, but it felt strange, like energy moving from him to her. He looked down at her hand, still resting on his chest. "What are you doing?" Lyra's eyes half closed. "Helping," she whispered. "You cold? I give warmth." Ethan felt a shiver run up his back. He tried to move, but her hand stayed in place. Then she opened her eyes, and for a moment they weren't blue. They turned deep silver, swirling like liquid metal. He blinked in surprise. "Your eyes." "They changed." Lyra smiled softly. "You see too much," she said in a teasing tone. Then she stood up and walked deeper into the cave. "You hungry?" Ethan was too stunned to reply at first. Yeah, a little." Lyra touched the wall and a part of it opened like a flower. Inside were strange glowing fruits, soft and blue. She picked one and handed it to him. "Eat." "Safe," she said. Ethan looked at it carefully. It smelled sweet, like honey. He took a small bite. It tasted amazing, like a mix of melon and mint. He smiled. "This is good." Lyra nodded, watching him closely as he ate. There was something in her gaze. Not hunger for food, but something else. Something curious. After a while, Ethan leaned back against the cave wall. The light around them flickered gently, making shadows dance across the floor. Lyra sat across from him, her eyes never leaving his face. "You from far away," she said slowly. "Yes," Ethan replied. "Very far. Another world. We call it Earth." "Earth," she repeated the word like it was new and beautiful. "Many like you there?" He smiled. "Billions." Lyra's expression changed slightly. "So many," she whispered almost to herself. Ethan didn't notice the small tremor in her voice. He was too busy explaining his home. "There are oceans, mountains, cities, people everywhere. We explore space to find new worlds, like this one." Lyra smiled faintly. "And what you do when you find." Ethan shrugged. "We learn, we share. We try to make peace." Her eyes softened. "Peace," she repeated. "Strange word." He looked at her curiously. "You don't have peace here?" Lyra looked down at her hands. For a moment her body flickered faintly, like water disturbed by wind. "Sometimes," she said quietly. "Sometimes not." The cave grew silent. Only the soft hum of the walls could be heard. After a while, Ethan stood up and stretched. "I'll go outside for a bit. Need to check my ship tomorrow." Lyra looked up at him quickly. "No," she said firmly. "Not now. Dark outside. Not safe." Ethan frowned. "What's out there?" Lyra's face stayed calm, but her eyes darkened. "Hunters," she whispered. "They see your light. They come." Ethan sat back down slowly. "All right. I'll stay here for the night, Lyra nodded. Good. She moved closer again, sitting beside him. The air around her felt warmer now, almost electric. Ethan could feel his heart beating faster, though he didn't know why. Lyra smiled at him, soft, kind, and yet too knowing. You sleep, she whispered. I watch. Ethan wanted to protest, but his body was heavy. His eyelids began to close. He felt her hand on his shoulder again, warm and pulsing. Before falling asleep, he thought he heard a faint sound, a low hum like slurping or sucking, soft but steady, echoing from somewhere deeper in the cave. Lyra sat beside him, her face calm and peaceful. But her eyes glowed brighter now, silver and alive. She whispered something in her own language, a soft hiss that sounded like a promise. Outside, the forest pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Inside, Ethan slept, unaware that the cave was not just her home, but her nest. Ethan woke up slowly, his head heavy and his body weak. The cave around him glowed softly and a low humming sound filled the air. For a moment he couldn't remember where he was. Then he saw her. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes half closed, her hands resting gently on his chest. Her palms glowed faintly blue. When she noticed he was awake, she pulled back quickly and smiled. You sleep long, she said softly. Ethan rubbed his eyes. How long? 2 turns, she replied. Sun up, sun down. 2 times, he frowned. I was asleep for 2 days? Lyra nodded. You very tired, Ethan sat up slowly. His body still felt strange, lighter in some way but also weaker. I don't feel right, he murmured. Lyra tilted her head. You feel empty? Yeah, Ethan said. How did you know? Lyra smiled faintly, but there was something cold behind it. Because I help you, she said. I take the bad energy from you. Ethan blinked. Take the bad energy? She nodded. You humans carry heavy fire inside. It burns you. I take little of it. Make you calm. Ethan didn't understand her words completely, but her tone was gentle and her smile made him feel safe again. Even though deep down, something felt off. He tried to stand, but his legs trembled. Lyra caught him by the arm. Her grip was firm, almost too strong for someone who looked so delicate. You rest more, she said softly. You not ready? Ethan sighed and sat back down. Thanks, but I really need to check my ship soon. I have to find a way to send a signal. Lyra frowned. Why go? You have me. You safe here? The way she said it made Ethan pause. Her tone was sweet, but there was something strange underneath, something possessive. He smiled weakly. I appreciate it, Lyra, really, but I can't stay forever. Lyra's eyes changed for a moment, from soft blue to sharp silver and then back again. She smiled again, but the warmth was gone. We see, she said quietly. The air in the cave suddenly felt heavier. Ethan decided to change the subject. So, how long have you lived here? Lyra looked up toward the glowing ceiling. Long time, she whispered. Before Skyfire. Before others. Others? Many come, she said slowly. Not all stay, Ethan frowned. What do you mean, not all stay? Lyra didn't answer. She just stared at him with calm eyes. The silence stretched between them until Ethan finally looked away. Later, when he tried to eat one of the glowing fruits again, he noticed her watching him closely. Her eyes followed every move he made like a scientist studying a test subject. You always look at me like that, he said, trying to laugh. You studying me or something? Lyra tilted her head slightly. You, beautiful inside, she said softly. Your energy strong. I can feel it, Ethan chuckled nervously. Yeah, well, humans eat a lot of coffee and bad food. That must be it. Lyra smiled again, but she didn't laugh. Her gaze didn't move from his chest. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep well. The cave was quiet, but strange sounds echoed from deeper tunnels and soft, wet noises like breathing or slurping. He tried to ignore them, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lyra's silver eyes glowing in the dark. At some point, he woke up to find her sitting very close. Her face was inches from his, her eyes wide and shining. Lyra? He whispered. She didn't move. Then slowly, she reached out and touched his cheek. Her fingers felt warm again, almost too warm. Ethan froze. You dream, she said quietly. You dream loud. You call my name. Ethan blinked in confusion. What? I don't remember. Lyra leaned closer, her voice like a whisper. You think of me, she said. You want me? Ethan swallowed hard. Lyra, you're beautiful, but Before he could finish, she pressed a finger to his lips. "Shh," she whispered. "No talk. Feel." Her hand slid from his face to his neck, and again he felt that strange pulsing energy, like small waves pulling inside him. His body relaxed even though his mind screamed to move. Then suddenly he saw something. For a split second her skin flickered, and under it he saw movement, tiny threads like glowing spaghetti twisting under the surface. They shimmered, alive and moving. Ethan gasped and pushed her back. "What the hell was that?" Lyra blinked, her expression blank for a moment. Then she smiled, a little too wide this time. "You see what not meant to see." Ethan backed away, heart pounding. "Lyra, what are you?" She tilted her head again. "I am life. I feed on warmth. On you." Her voice was soft, but her meaning hit him like a punch. Ethan shook his head. "Feed? What do you mean, feed?" Lyra stood, her form flickering faintly in the light. "Not hurt. Just share. You give, I take. Both live." Ethan didn't wait to hear more. He grabbed his gear and stepped toward the exit. "No, I'm done. I'm leaving." Lyra's voice echoed softly through the cave. "You can try." When Ethan looked back, she was smiling again, calm, beautiful, and terrifying. The air around her rippled, and the glow from the walls dimmed as if the cave itself obeyed her. Ethan's heart raced. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Ethan stood frozen at the mouth of the glowing cave. The air had turned thick and cold. Behind him, Lyra's soft voice echoed like a song breaking apart. "Don't run," she whispered. "You don't need to run from me." But every part of his body screamed, "Run now." He took a step backward. The light from the walls flickered like a dying fire. "Lyra," he said, his voice shaking. "I don't know what's going on here, but I need to leave. You're not what I thought." Lyra tilted her head, her long silver hair drifting in the air as if moved by invisible water. Her eyes glowed brighter, turning pure white. Her lips parted slightly, and a strange sound escaped her throat. Not human, not animal. It was a wet, slurping hiss that made Ethan's blood run cold. She took a slow step toward him. The floor shimmered under her feet, melting slightly with each touch. "You scared?" she said softly. "But you don't have to be. I only take what I need." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Take what?" "My energy, my life?" Lyra's smile widened, and for a moment her jaw stretched too far. Her teeth, small and perfect seconds ago, now looked long and sharp like crystal needles. "I feed on warmth," she whispered. "You are warmth." Ethan stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a rock. "You're lying. You said you were helping me." Lyra moved closer, her voice low and calm. "And I did. You lived because I gave you balance. But now I need more." The air began to hum. The walls of the cave pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan felt his chest tighten. His breath came fast, shallow. He turned and ran. Behind him, the sound grew louder. Not footsteps, but a slurping, sucking noise that echoed like 100 tongues dragging over glass. "Ethan," Lyra's voice stretched through the air, soft but terrifying. "Don't leave me hungry." Ethan sprinted out into the glowing forest. The air outside was thick with green mist. He could still hear her, not walking but moving, sliding through the fog like liquid. He pushed through tall, glowing plants, their edges brushing against him like soft hands. The forest pulsed faintly with light, and the rhythm matched his racing heart. When he dared to look back, he saw her. Lyra floated above the ground. Her body was changing, her arms stretching thin, her legs fusing into a single long shape that shimmered like silver smoke. Her hair drifted around her face, now sharp and alien. The human softness was gone. She was something else entirely, something older, hungrier. Ethan stumbled on a root, falling hard to the ground. He groaned, rolling over just in time to see her hover above him. Her voice came from everywhere. "You make me chase." "I don't want to chase." "It hurts me. Stay away from me," Ethan shouted, grabbing a metal rod from his belt, part of his broken ship. Lyra's face shifted between human and alien, beauty and nightmare. "Don't fight," she hissed. "It hurts when you fight." She reached down, and her hand, now long and thin like liquid silver, touched his shoulder. Instantly, Ethan felt a pull, like his soul was being dragged from his body. His skin tingled and burned. His breath caught. The sound, that awful slurp, filled his ears as his strength drained away. He screamed, swinging the metal rod with all his force. It hit her arm, and instead of breaking, her arm exploded into silver droplets that hissed and smoked when they hit the air. Lyra screamed, the sound shaking the trees. Her voice wasn't beautiful anymore. It was wild and sharp, full of pain. Ethan scrambled to his feet, running again. His legs felt weak, but adrenaline kept him going. He ran toward the wreck of his ship in the distance, following the faint metallic smell of smoke and oil. Behind him, the forest lights dimmed as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Lyra's voice came again, broken but still smooth. "You hurt me, Ethan. You shouldn't have done that." He ignored her, pushing through the vines until he reached the crash site. His ship was still half buried, lights flickering weakly. He dove inside, slamming the hatch shut behind him. Inside, he grabbed a small flare gun from the emergency kit and aimed it at the door. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. The ship trembled. Something moved outside, slow, heavy. The walls creaked as if being touched by many hands at once. Then came that sound again, slurp, 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 soft but getting closer. Ethan's hand shook, finger on the trigger. "Come on, you monster," he whispered. "Try me." The sound stopped. Silence. Then, a faint voice, Lyra's voice, came from right outside the ship. Calm. Sad. "Ethan, I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to join." Her words sent a chill through him. "Join? What does that mean?" He shouted. She whispered, "Two hearts, one body. You feel me forever." Ethan swallowed hard, his mind spinning. Not a chance. The wall beside him bulged inward, a smooth silver face pushing through the metal. Lyra's half-formed face smiled at him from the wall itself. Ethan screamed and fired the flare. The red light burst through the cabin, hitting the silver surface. Lyra shrieked, pulling back as smoke filled the air. The ship shook violently and she vanished into the dark. Ethan fell to his knees. Breathing hard outside, the mist swirled in, and for a moment, he thought it was over. But then he heard her whisper again, soft and close, right in his ear. "Light hurts, but hunger never dies." The forest was alive with light and whispers. Every glowing leaf, every misty breath of air seemed to watch him as he ran. Ethan's lungs burned, but he didn't dare stop. His boots slapped against the soft, glowing soil, leaving faint blue footprints that pulsed behind him. He didn't know where to go. He only knew one thing: he had to stay in the light. The flare gun's red glow had hurt Lyra. That meant light was her weakness, but his flares were gone. He had only the fading emergency light on his wristband, and its power bar was nearly empty. "Come on," he whispered between gasps. "Just a little longer." Behind him something moved. It wasn't footsteps. It was the sound of liquid sliding across stone. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Slow, steady, patient. Ethan turned his head and froze. Lyra was gliding through the fog, her body glowing faintly silver. She wasn't walking anymore. Her legs had split into dozens of thin tendrils that crawled silently over the ground. Her face was still beautiful, but her eyes were gone, replaced by two glowing circles of light. "Ethan," her voice came like wind and echo mixed together. "Don't fight me. I can make it gentle." Ethan stumbled backward, raising his wrist light toward her. The beam flickered weakly across her body. She hissed, shrinking back for a second, but then the light dimmed again and she smiled. "Your light is dying," she whispered, "and when it dies, I feed." Ethan turned and ran again, forcing his tired legs to move faster. The glowing trees blurred past him. Some bent toward him as he passed, like they were curious or warning him. He ducked under a low branch that sparkled like glass. His oxygen alarm beeped faintly. He didn't have time to worry about that now. He needed a plan. Light hurt her. Maybe fire would too. His ship had some light cells. If he could get back to them, maybe he could build a trap. The forest opened into a wide clearing filled with glowing water. Small creatures floated above it like jellyfish, their tendrils brushing the surface. The air was humid, thick with the smell of something sweet. Ethan crouched behind a large stone, trying to catch his breath. For a moment, everything was silent. No sound, no movement, no slurping. Only the slow pulse of the water's glow. Then suddenly the light dimmed. The jellyfish-like creatures scattered. The water rippled. Ethan's stomach dropped. "No, no, no." Lyra's voice drifted through the clearing. "You run well, Ethan, so full of fire. But your fire will fade soon. The ground beneath him trembled. He looked down and saw thin silver lines spreading through the soil, glowing faintly. They were her. She was under him. He jumped back just as the ground exploded in a wave of silver tendrils. They lashed at him, wrapping around his leg. The touch burned cold like ice that bit deep into his skin. Ethan screamed and grabbed his utility knife, slashing wildly. The blade cut through one of the tendrils, and it shrieked like metal scraping glass. He fell back, kicking free and rolling away. Lyra rose from the ground in front of him, half human, half liquid, her body shimmering like mercury. Her mouth opened slightly, and from within came those thin, wriggling tendrils, the ones that looked like glowing spaghetti. They waved in the air, moving toward him with a soft sucking sound. Ethan stumbled back. "Stay away from me!" Lyra smiled sadly. "Why? You are the only warmth left here." He grabbed a rock and threw it at her. It passed through her chest like she was made of smoke, splashing bits of silver that sizzled on the ground. Ethan turned and ran again. The terrain sloped downward toward a glowing ravine. Maybe a cave entrance, maybe death. He didn't care. Anything was better than her. He slid down the slope, dirt and glowing dust flying everywhere. Behind him, Lyra followed, her form slithering and stretching, the sound of her movement echoing like 1,000 whispers. At the bottom of the slope, Ethan saw something, the edge of his crashed ship half buried in soil and glowing moss. He almost cried in relief. He ran inside the wreck, slamming the broken hatch closed. The inside smelled of metal and smoke, but it felt safe. For now. He opened a panel and pulled out the emergency light cells about the size of apples. He connected 2 wires from his wristband and sparked one to life. A bright white light filled the cabin. Outside, a shadow moved. Then came a scream, not human, not natural. It was Lyra, and the sound made his bones shake. "Light," she hissed from beyond the door. "You use light to hurt me. Why?" Ethan yelled, "Because you tried to kill me." There was silence. Then her voice turned soft again, almost human. "Kill? No, join. You would live in me. Feel no fear. No pain." Ethan gritted his teeth. "I'll take fear over being food." He placed the light cells around the doorway, rigging them with metal strips and wire. His hands shook, but he worked fast. He had one plan. When she came through, he'd blast the light at full power. The ship shook again. Metal bent. A thin silver tendril slipped through the crack in the hatch, twitching like a finger. Ethan held his breath. "Please, Ethan," Lyra whispered from the other side. "It doesn't have to hurt," he whispered back, voice shaking. "Yeah, but it's going to." He hit the switch. The light exploded, blinding, white and pure. The tendril burst into smoke. A high-pitched scream filled the air, shaking the walls. The glow outside vanished, leaving only silence and the smell of burning metal. Ethan collapsed to the floor, panting. His heart raced, his hands trembling. For the first time, there was no sound. No whisper. No slurp. But as he stared at the wall, he saw a small silver mark, still glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. She wasn't gone. Not yet. For a long time, Ethan sat on the cold floor of his broken ship, breathing hard. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. The sharp smell of smoke and metal filled the air. The light cells glowed weakly now, their energy fading after the blast. He looked at the glowing mark on the wall, that small patch of silver pulsing like a heartbeat. It was still alive. "She's not dead," he whispered. Ethan wiped sweat from his face. He knew she would come back. Maybe not in minutes, maybe not in hours, but she would. He needed to end this. He checked what was left of his gear. A half-charged energy pack, 2 flares, a few metal plates, and a plasma torch. Not much, but it would have to do. He'd been a survivor before. He could be one again. He stood up and began to plan. Outside, the alien forest pulsed softly. The green mist drifted low over the glowing ground. Every few seconds, the faint hum of the planet's heartbeat echoed through the air. And in that rhythm, Ethan thought he heard her name, Lyra. She was part of this place. Maybe she was the planet itself. That meant one thing. If he wanted to stop her, he had to hit the planet too. He turned toward the engine compartment, where the fuel cells were stored. 2 of them were cracked, but one was still stable. If he could wire it to the light cells, the burst might release enough pure light energy to destroy anything in the area, including her. It would also destroy the ship. Ethan gave a tired laugh. "Figures," he muttered. No one ever said saving your life would leave you a ride home. He worked fast, his hands moving even as his body shook from exhaustion. He connected the wires, adjusted the voltage, and rewired the light cells into a single circuit. It would burn out in seconds, but those seconds might be enough. He paused, staring at the small reflection of himself in a metal plate. His eyes were sunken, his face pale. He looked like a ghost, but there was still something burning behind those eyes, that stubborn human spark. A faint sound came from outside, soft, wet, and patient. Slurp. Ethan froze. He turned slowly toward the hatch. The air grew cold again. The walls began to tremble. Ethan, Lyra's voice drifted through the cracks, soft and sweet, the way it had been the first time he met her. You hurt me before. You used the burning light, but I forgive you. Ethan didn't answer. I can give you peace, she continued. You don't need to fight. Let me take your pain away. He closed his eyes. You already took enough, the ship groaned. The metal under his feet vibrated. A silver shape began to form through the wall. Her face again, calm, beautiful, and wrong. You think you can win, she whispered. But you can't kill what is part of the world. I am everywhere. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I'll make the world burn. Before she could react, he slammed his hand on the control panel, activating the power circuit. A high-pitched whine filled the ship as the fuel cell began to overload. Bright light flickered around him, growing stronger every second. Lyra screamed, her form twisting, melting into ribbons of silver. Her voice turned into a roar that shook the ground. No, you'll die too. Ethan shouted back over the noise. Yeah! That's the human way, we die fighting. The light exploded. A blinding wave of white energy burst from the ship, shooting through the cracks, the soil, the trees, everything. The forest screamed as the glowing plants burned white and disappeared. Lyra's body shattered into a storm of silver dust, scattering into the mist. The blast threw Ethan backward. He hit the wall hard, pain exploding through his ribs. Then silence. When he opened his eyes, everything was dim again. The forest outside was quiet. The air was still. He coughed and dragged himself to his knees. The ship was nearly destroyed, but he was alive. He crawled to the open hatch and looked out. The trees were gray now, their glow gone. The silver dust that had once been Lyra covered the ground like snow. It shimmered faintly, but it didn't move. Ethan stared at it, chest rising and falling. Guess that's that, he whispered. But as he turned away, something caught his eye. A single speck of dust drifted upward, glowing softly, curling like smoke. He frowned. No. The speck floated higher, twisting into a thin line. It shimmered once, like a wink, and then vanished into the air. Ethan closed his eyes. She's still out there, he said quietly. Part of her always will be. He looked at the sky. The faint stars above the green clouds blinked weakly. He smiled a little. Humanity 1, Alien 0, he whispered. Then he began working again, rebuilding a signal transmitter from what was left of the comms system. His hands shook, but his mind stayed clear. If someone found his message, they would know the truth. Warning, he recorded, voice hoarse. Planet 47b. Hostile life forms that mimic humans. Light is their weakness. Don't trust what looks like love. He leaned back, pressing his head against the wall. The light from the broken circuits painted his face gold. He whispered to himself, We survive. We always survive. Outside, the alien wind blew softly, like a sigh. And somewhere, deep under the soil, a faint hum started again. Soft, steady, and hungry. Hours passed. The green glow of the planet had faded to a dull gray. The once living jungle was now quiet, lifeless, frozen, and still. Ethan sat inside the broken ship, holding the cracked transmitter in his hands. His fingers were raw, his eyes red from smoke and exhaustion. But he had done it. He pressed the button. The screen flickered weakly, then lit up with a blue light. A faint hum buzzed through the air. The signal was live. Recording message, the machine said. Ethan leaned close, his voice low and tired. This is Ethan Cole of the Earth Exploration Division. I crashed on Planet 47b. If anyone hears this, stay away. The life here isn't what it looks like. They mimic humans. They feed on energy, on life. They'll call it love. They'll call it warmth. But it's a trap. He paused, staring at the floor. The silver dust still covered everything like snow. Light hurts them, he continued softly. Remember that. Bring light, bring fire. Don't trust beauty. And if she says she wants to join you, get run. He pressed send. The transmitter blinked 3 times, then the signal vanished into the dark sky. Ethan leaned back, closing his eyes. His body felt heavy, but his mind was finally calm. He had survived. He had fought back. Humanity had fought back. When he opened his eyes again, the sky outside had changed color. The mist was thinning. Above him, stars began to appear, small and cold but real. Ethan smiled weakly. That's Earth's direction, he whispered. He dragged himself to the cockpit, sitting in the half-broken chair. The control panel flickered faintly. Most systems were dead, but one still worked. The emergency thruster. It wasn't enough to reach orbit, but maybe, just maybe, it could lift him closer to space. Someone might see his signal. He began typing in commands. Sparks flickered, wires hissed. Come on, baby, he muttered. One more flight. The engines groaned. The ship shook. The floor rattled as the thruster ignited weakly. Then with a deep, trembling roar, the ship rose from the ground. Ethan laughed, a broken but real laugh. We're flying again. The jungle below shrank, fading into mist. The air outside turned thin and dark. The stars grew brighter. For the first time in days, Ethan felt hope. Almost there, he whispered. Just hold together. He leaned back, eyes half closed, breathing the recycled air. The hum of the engine was steady now, soft and comforting. But then, a sound, a faint tap, tap, tap from somewhere behind the cockpit. Ethan frowned, turning his head. What the? He stood up, moving slowly toward the back. The metal walls were still burned black from the explosion, but near one corner he saw something. A small silver line, thin as a hair, crawling across the wall. His heart stopped. No, he whispered. No, no, no. The silver thread shimmered and twitched, growing longer. It pulsed faintly like it was alive. Then a voice, soft and broken, and whispered inside his mind. You left me, Ethan. Ethan stumbled backward, his breath coming fast. Impossible. You're gone. The voice came again, sweeter now. You burned me. But I tasted you. I live inside you now. He clutched his chest, feeling a strange warmth under his skin. A slow, rhythmic pulse that wasn't his heartbeat. No. He whispered again. You can't. His body shook. His vision blurred. The warmth grew stronger, spreading through his veins like fire. His knees gave out and he fell to the floor. Inside his mind, her laughter echoed softly. You said light hurts me. But you are light, Ethan. You are warmth. You are mine. Ethan screamed, clutching his head. The world around him began to twist. The walls rippled like water. The ship's lights flickered rapidly. Then suddenly everything stopped. Silence. Ethan gasped for air, shaking. The pain faded. The warmth was gone. He looked at his arms, nothing. No silver, no glow. Just skin. He sat there, trembling. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe he was losing his mind. He stood up slowly and looked out the cockpit window. The planet was now far below, a dull green circle fading in the distance. He smiled weakly. You're gone, Lyra, you're really gone. But as he turned back to the console, his reflection appeared in the glass. And for a split second, his eyes glowed faintly silver, then they faded back to normal. He froze. Outside the ship, a single silver thread drifted into the darkness of space. Small, glowing, alive, it floated toward the nearest star, where light and warmth waited. Ethan sat back in the chair, breathing heavily. He didn't know if he was free or cursed. But one thing was certain. Humanity would know what he had found, and whatever Lyra was, she would not stop. The final line of his message echoed in his head. Don't trust what looks like love. The screen faded to black, and from somewhere deep in the stars, a soft voice whispered, almost lovingly, See you soon. Ethan.